First of all, the people are great, especially in Resistencia. They're all very humble. When people think of Argentina, a lot of people right off the bat will think of Buenos Aires, and that's a very proud city. A lot of people in Buenos Aires, aren't very receptive. They're used to being in a city, but up north it's kind of like the farmland. It's just, it's like if you're in the American South, it's like everyone's, hey, how are you? Come on in, we want to hear your message. Whether or not they're interested, they'll always invite you in, which becomes a challenge later on. But they're really warm, they're really friendly, they're great people. They're very happy. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, they are relatively poor. The government and economy is relatively socialized in Argentina, so a lot of the people are living off the government. At the beginning of the month, the government gives them a paycheck, and they kind of just live off that. There is a large indigenous population, especially over in Chaco and Formosa. In one of the areas I was in, we were in charge of 2 towns. One was a town called Ibarreta, which was just like the normal city. A bunch of Argentines lived there. But across the highway, it was probably like 2 miles. My companion and I we'd go there at least once a week, and it was an Indian colony for an Indian tribe called the Pilaga. And there were maybe 100 people that lived out there. There are maybe 1,000 people in the world that speak Pilaga, but that was the only language they spoke. So we'd go out with a translator, and there was a branch there. So I mean, you could easily say that the majority of Pilaga speaking people or Pilaga descendants are members of the church, because 40 or 50 members of that little branch that was across the street from the town we were in. But the other big tribes out there, you got Pilaga, and there's a reservation called the Primavera tribe that's in Formosa. So there's a pretty big indigenous population. One of the cities in Misiones is called Obera, and it's a bunch of Hungarians. So I'm not sure exactly when they came over. I'm sure it must have been around the World Wars, but in a lot of places in Argentina, it's kind of a novelty to have light skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. But you go there and you're just another face in the crowd, because almost everyone in that town is a white person. But yeah, almost everyone is Catholic, and whether or not they're very active in the church varies a lot. A lot of times they're not active until we show up and invite them to come to church, and they say, oh no, I'm Catholic, I could never go to another church. And sometimes, which is really hard, they'll know that the church is true, but they have such a hard time letting go of those customs that they choose to not get baptized because of their friends or their family. But yeah, so it's really poor. Everyone's Catholic. Like, how you make a living depends a lot on what province you live in. Like I said, a bulk of people's incomes is from government plans where they pay you, whether it be for having kids or whatever, in Formosa and Chaco, it's largely agriculture. Cotton is a major crop that they grow over there. In Corrientes, it's a lot of, so it's not, I don't know, livestock is the word. And Argentina is known for its beef, and a lot of its beef is coming from Corrientes. So people would leave the town for, 2 weeks and go out to the field, and they would work in the field, whether it be, putting up fences, but it was all just caring for livestock. And then Misiones, I was really only in Posadas, so I can really only speak to that. But that was just a normal city. We had members and investigators that were, we had a carpenter, we had an accountant, but it's definitely a more modern city. There are business people there. And that's almost the same as asking me what the majority of people do in my ward here in town is. I don't know. They all go to work from 9 to 5, but I couldn't tell you exactly what they do. But for the other provinces, it's definitely, agriculture and livestock. I never had a single problem. When I was zone leader, there was a companionship in my zone that got held up at gunpoint. My companion, my trainer, got robbed. They have something called motochorros, which is just motorcycle robbers, and they would just drive past and grab your bag and take off. But generally, if they steal your bag, they find out that you only have a couple Book of Mormons and some pamphlets, and they don't really rob you again. At no point did I ever feel unsafe. And that could just be, because of confidence, but I really did feel safe. And the members were always willing to give you a heads up. They'd say, elders, maybe stay out of that neighborhood at night, or things like that. But people in most of the towns that I was in, people came to know us, and they'd just say, oh, hey, yeah, it's you guys. I know you don't have anything, I'm not worried about it. So, safety and crime was never a big deal, but, almost always, I'd say every month or every time there was a zone leader conference or, a mission conference, you'd hear about somebody getting robbed. But it was kind of, I don't think I ever met anyone who was robbed twice in their mission. It was just kind of, maybe it happened to you once and that was it.